Hundreds of anti-Brexit protesters descended on the Labour Party conference to pressurize the party into backing a more pro-EU policy. Protesters were seen waving European Union flags and gathering on the Britain waterfront on Sunday, asking Jeremy Corbyn to stand up for their EU rights. However, Labour Party Jeremy Corbyn is opposed to remaining in the EU single market after Brexit. The anti-Brexit supporters also chanted Brexit is racist. Meanwhile, Jeremy Corbyn during the conference has reportedly promised to listen to Labour members' calls to keep the UK in the single market. Let's go straight across to our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, joining us for more on this. Mandy, it's very interesting, the sentiment which continues to prevail on ground, given the fact that there are increasingly, more numbers coming in of protesters voicing their discontent with Brexit, voicing their protest against the reform. There's still hope that Brexit will not be a reality.
Yes, and you have to remember that vote was incredibly close. It was, half the country really didn't want to leave the European Union. So you are seeing more and more that voice being heard. There is a feeling that it can be stopped, and in reality, legally, it can be stopped. But it's certainly not the will of the Tory party. They feel like they have a duty to withhold that referendum result. But also Labour, and this is the interesting, it's the party of opposition in the UK, but and even though the Labour platform supported remaining in the EU, the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, supported Brexit. So he has decided at the Labour conference not to even have a debate on Brexit, which is unusual, and people are condemning that it's a way of silencing many of the rebels in the Labour Party who really did want to stay in the European Union. So we are seeing that voice more and more.
It's very interesting also the stand that Jeremy Corbyn here has taken, Mandy, emphasizing that, as he's already mentioned earlier, and the calls that have been coming in, but he has promised to listen to Labour members' calls to keep the UK in the single market. All right, we will just try and reconnect with Mandy there. But as she was pointing out, there are increasingly more protesters who are descending on the Labour conference, as they have already, chanting Brexit is racist, holding banners and placards. In fact, very interestingly, Jeremy Corbyn during the conference has reportedly promised to listen to the Labour members' calls to keep the UK in the single market. Remember, there have been widespread protests on ground against Brexit by the pro-EU backers. Hundreds of anti-Brexit protesters have descended on the Labour Party conference in order to pressurize the party into backing a more pro-EU policy. They want the reform to not become a reality. There is, as Mandy, our correspondent and our London Bureau Chief, was just pointing out, there is a growing sentiment. Mandy, as I was just, talking about how the stand that Jeremy Corbyn has taken here is very interesting, while maintaining that he will be listening to the concerns that are being raised by the pro-EU members, but also maintaining that he wants the UK to remain in the single market.
Yeah, it's a very difficult stance for him to stand. And the Labour Party, just like the Tory party, is so divided on this issue, as well as the country. So it's very difficult for him to rally that support when it's a divided issue. Even the Mayor Sadiq Khan really wants Brexit to stop, and he is a very strong voice in the Labour Party. So a very difficult balance. And at the time when Labour really needs to have a strong opposition, so there's a strong voice that is in opposition to the Tory government, who are taking a very hard-line stance on Brexit, the big worry is that it will affect the economy and also those EU workers and the British workers who live in the EU.